our discussions yesterday around salaries and conditions of service. And you have given me certain instructions as to how we will proceed. At a later time, I will be speaking a little bit more to that particular issue based on the instructions that you have given me. But this morning is the morning where we accommodate the minister and her team, and I just want to acknowledge the team. It's a big team, but I especially want to acknowledge Minister Dr. the Honorable Dana Morris Dixon, PS, Dr. Troop, the CEO, of course, is here. Ms. Terrian Gale, IC, the DCO, is also here. Ms. Brim, Mrs. Blackwood Grant from the region that cares. Good morning. I have to acknowledge her. She calls me the apostle. And rest assured, colleagues, I will be preaching the gospel. So we are going to get right into it, Minister. Of course, there will be roughly about everything's okay. So as per usual, the minister will be allotted up to 45 minutes to give her presentation, and then from there, questions will be fielded to the minister. When we get to that point, I will give some instructions as to how we proceed. I ask that you listen to the minister intently, you jot down your notes, and be prepared to ask the pointed questions as you should. All right, without any further ado, Minister, over to you.
This is quite high. Good morning, everyone. And I'm glad to see many of you here. I know it's been very late nights, but you're here this morning, and I really do appreciate that. And I'm very thankful to be here, too. I want to acknowledge everyone here. I have to acknowledge the SecGen. I have to acknowledge the new president, Mr. Malava. I also want to thank you. I also want to acknowledge the immediate past president and also the president-elect, and of course everybody who is here from the Ministry of Education. And as you know, as I said last night, I've been going around to the schools so that I can have a first-hand understanding of what is happening in our education system. I firmly believe that you cannot stay in the Ministry of Education and make policy without understanding what is happening on the ground. So when you see me going around, it's not because I just want to go around, it's because I really do believe that it is important to hear from you. And so my presentation this morning is actually going to be framed around what I have heard on the ground. And so I'll be responding to what teachers across those 70-odd schools that I've been to have said to me and that are their concerns. And what I'm going to be telling you this morning is how I am dealing with those issues that have been brought to my attention. Now, many of you do not know me. You know my bio maybe, but you don't really know who I am. And I want to introduce myself to my teachers who are here. So, if you want to think about me, you have to think about me just as Miss Gwen's granddaughter. That's literally who I am. I am Gwendolyn Marie Phillips's granddaughter. She is the first person to make me feel that I could do anything in this world. She was also a fierce believer in God. And I tell you, she used to pray night and day for me. And she's passed away for many years now, 15 years now she's passed away, but I still feel her prayers in my life. And she taught me some things. She was a dressmaker, no fancy profession really. You know, just, she used to make costumes for JCDC, well it wasn't JCDC at the time, but festival. She'd be one of them that would toil through the night to get the festival costumes sewed. And I used to help her with the hemming. That was what I could do. I could hem and I could sew on buttons. That was it. So to this day, that's what I can do. I can hem and I can put on buttons. But she taught me something that was very important. She always told me that she felt I was going to be able to do big things in life. But one thing she always told me was that I must never ever believe that I'm better than anyone else. And that's very important to me. Everybody is important. Every single person is important. And as Minister of Education, I see everybody as absolutely important. And that's why I like to hear the voices of everyone. When I go to schools, I also want to talk to the janitors. They're important too. They play a very, very big role in our schools. And one of the things I was so happy about, I went to one of our top performing PEP schools. And I was so happy, and it was at Philadelphia Primary and Infant School in St. Anne. Of course, Mr. Gree, right? And at that school, I was able to give gifts to the teachers and the principal, but I was also able to give gifts to the janitor and also to the canteen attendant. We talk about our education system, we only single out certain people, but they are just as important. When I talked to that canteen attendant, she was telling me all about the children and how she makes the lunch stretch so that everybody gets something, and she was telling me all about the history around the children and how proud she was of them. And so I keep that in my mind all the time, what my grandmother said, which is that you're never better than anyone else, and everybody is important. And so I come to you today because I understand how important you are in this entire project that we are on, which we call education. And for those of you who do not know, I was a teacher for a time in high school, and I taught economics at the Cape level, and I also taught POB at CSEC. And it was not an easy journey. So when I tell you that I understand the pain of being in the classroom sometimes, I'm speaking from my own experience. I'll tell you that one of the most difficult things for me was having to do those lesson plans. Lesson plans were very difficult for me, but I had to do them. I understood the value of it, but it took up so much time and it was so painful. And so I always say to people, when they say, oh, teachers get their summers and they don't have a full day, I'm like, really? Do you know the lesson planning? Do you know how much time it takes to mark papers? And that part too was a part I never liked. I didn't mind setting the test, but when you have to sit down with the stacks of books and to mark, and then I remember having a class that was really difficult. And every time I went to that class, I had to pray before I walk in that room, because those children were really trying to test my patience. And I'm a very patient person, but they were really trying to test me. And after I finished that year with that cohort, I was so happy. But I also learned a lot from that cohort. I learned that sometimes you just have to put aside what the ministry asks you to do and teach. Sometimes you had to, you really had to, because that group was particularly difficult, and there was a group of children who had behavioral challenges, and I had to spend a lot of time just talking to them about life, just validating them, telling them that they matter, talking about their future, asking them what they want to be because people weren't asking them that. And so I don't know how much POB they learned, but at least I hope they understood that they were valued and they were heard. And I think there's value in that. There's a lot of value in that. And so I understand the dilemmas in the classroom, and that's how I come to you this morning with a lot of humility, just to tell you what I've heard and what I plan to do. I'm moving to infrastructure. As I've gone around Jamaica, I have seen the crumbling infrastructure in the schools. It's clear. You see it everywhere. You see the cracks from the floor to the ceiling. You see the termite problem, which is huge. The termite problem is a big, big deal in our schools. And you see the leaking roof. But I will tell you, I think there's a leak up here. And this is a nice, fancy place. Now we also have a leak. But the infrastructure is an issue. And every time I go to schools, I am told, we need to fix this. Look at this problem. This is something that we need to address. And so I agree with you completely that this is an area that we have to focus on. And so I'm telling you that we've been increasing allocations to infrastructure, and we're going to continue to do that. And I always look at 10-year stretches to see how much improvement we're making. Are we making any improvement or are we not? In 2015, we would have spent 95 million on infrastructure. But in terms of this year, we're spending 628 million on school repairs and maintenance. And so let me give you some of the ones that will get it. There are going to be many schools that will get the termite treatment because I have seen it. I have seen the termite problem. So we have schools like Lucky Valley Primary and many more who will get that termite treatment. Fort George Primary and Infant will get their roof repairs. Seaview Gardens Primary will get the waterproofing of their roof. We have so many other ones that we are doing. We're going to be rehabilitating Arakabessa Primary, Bonebrook Primary. The list is so long. And guess what? It's not everybody that needs it. And so this has to be a priority. But there's been a lot of investment in this area. And I will note that last year after Hurricane Beryl, one of the things, I wasn't in education at the time, but one of the things I was very happy to see was that after the hurricane, that the financing was provided to fix the schools that had been damaged. But then there are the tier 2 schools that had not, tier 2 in terms of burial damage, that had not been repaired. And I was so happy when I saw the supplementary budget that we got over $2 billion to fix that next set of schools that had been damaged by Hurricane Beryl. So if you've been damaged by Hurricane Beryl and never got your school repaired, please make sure you're on that list. If you're not on the list, tell me, tell the PS, because we've gotten funding to be able to do that next set of schools that were damaged by Hurricane Beryl. So this year, as I said, there are 202 schools that are going to be benefiting from the new capital projects that we will be doing, and the Ministry of Education has the list, the regions have the list, so you can check if your school is on that list. If your school isn't on it, we will work. We're going to be constantly advocating for more funding for all of you. The other thing that I heard as I spoke to teachers across the system related to truancy and students missing school. It's a big, big deal. And again, like I said last night, there are so many times when we just look at the CSEC results and rate a school. But we have many schools that operate in environments where children come part of the week. And that's the reality. And you're not going to get the results from children who come part of the week. And so we have to ensure that we bring our children in every day. And that's a concern I've heard from the teachers. Our teachers want the students there. Our teachers want to teach. And so we have had to think about what are the impediments to that taking place. And there are two things that came up. One was transportation cost, and the other one had to do with food and the cost of lunch. Many parents cannot afford it. And so what we've decided to do this year is to add an additional $1 billion to our program for school nutrition. And who is that going to? Who is going to get that? So as many of you know, we have NSLIP schools. Those are our schools that we want to raise the performance of. So for all of those schools, we've allocated additional funds so that our students can get breakfast and lunch. That's what we're using that extra $1 billion for. Because we believe that, as last night, President Malava said, that we have to look at how we allocate our funding. And this is one way that we're doing it, is through looking at giving more assistance in terms of nutrition assistance to our schools that need it the most. And then we also have our new school bus system, rural school bus system, that we're expecting will be able to help students. It's not going to be enough, and also many of you have your own private systems in place, and you have private operators that you work with. Please note, none of that will be disturbed. So if you already have private arrangements, you can continue with those. This will be on top of those private arrangements that our schools have. But this is an important thing because too many parents have said, and even our teachers have said, students do not come because they cannot afford the bus fare and the taxi fare, especially when they're in rural areas and have to travel long distances. The other thing that I'm very happy about, and I know our PS has been leading the charge on, is our education management information system. It's hard to make policy when you don't know, when you don't have the data. And so EMIS will be able to give us information on our students, on attendance, so that we can intervene even more. Last night, I heard, and I think the night before, I heard from President Malava, his view in relation to truancy and social workers, and using our social workers more, and I agree with him. And what we have to do, though, is to make sure that we have the data. So we know where the problem is so that we can deploy the resources across the system, because we need to get our children in school every single day. Another thing that came up as I went across the country had to do with parenting. And this was something that a lot of teachers told me about, that you try to discipline children and the parents intervene. And that is a concern, and it's a concern that all of Jamaica should have. I have seen where, especially in our secondary schools, parents are not involved. And I always say to parents, it doesn't end at primary school. Your role doesn't end at primary school. When they go to high school, they need you even more as they go through the teenage years. But a lot of parents abandon their responsibility at the secondary level. And it is a problem. And so when we see some of the behavioral challenges in our schools, a lot of it, as I've been told by the teachers, and I agree with you, link back to the lack of parenting. And so that parenting issue is something we're going to have to address. We're going to have to relook our National Parenting Support Commission. We're going to have to, because it has to get closer to our communities to do the work that is necessary. It's more than a board. It is more in terms of the orientation of the entity. How do we make it a lot more active? I had one principal say that he put in place parenting seminars for the first form parents. And that when he did that, the parents said that what they learned, no one had ever told them this. No one had ever told them about the identity changes that teenagers were going through. No one had ever given them tips to deal with unruly teenagers. So there are a lot of parents who just don't know. And we have to do better in the ministry and through our arms of the ministry to make that connection, to work with parents, because we can do everything we're doing in our schools. If we're trying to instill good values at school and then our children go home to their homes and their communities where they learn antisocial habits, it will be for naught. So we have to have school working in tandem with the home. And there's a lot of work that we're going to have to do in order to work with our parents, to help them to reinforce discipline, for them to understand that when a child gets punished at school, gets a detention, gets suspended, it is time to work with the school because we're identifying a problem. It's not time to go to the school and be upset with the teachers. And that happens a lot. And so this is something that we're going to have to play a much bigger role in as ministry in terms of working through that parenting issue. Another thing that you told me as I came, and I got to go into staff rooms, and I remembered my days in the staff room, I did not like the conditions that our teachers were working in the staff rooms. They were so hot. And then you saw, crumbling infrastructure. And so one of the things I need to work on, and I will work on, and with the help of the JTA, is improving our staff rooms. We have to implement a policy of fixing our staff rooms. We have to put ACs in there. We have to put better furniture in there. It needs to be conducive to the hard work that you are doing. And so one of the commitments I'm giving you and to the JTA is that we will work through a program of infrastructure improvement for specifically the staff rooms across Jamaica. And this is why it's important for me to go out. You don't know this unless you go in there and you sit down in there and talk to the teachers. And you have to take off your jacket because you are sweating profusely and you're like, this is not fair. It's not fair. And so this is an area that you're going to hear a lot more about because it is important and you have to be working in a much more comfortable environment than you are right now. The other thing I heard from teachers had to do with literacy. And you were as concerned as Jamaica is about literacy. And we have to understand the roots of all of these challenges. And of course, we know one of the roots could be developmental challenges that our children have and undiagnosed special needs. And that is something that we have to focus a lot more energy on. But we also understand that literacy is the base of everything. I believe in starting with the basics. We have to go back to the basics. And so that's why literacy is such an important issue. Literacy, I'm glad you agree with me, Lasagna. I'm glad. This is the key thing. Where I find it so strange that we would have asked our teachers to teach all these things to children who cannot read. What's the point? What's the point? So we have to start with and it sounds simple, it sounds a little bit, it's not that we're not ambitious, but we understand with everything, the foundation is key. And if you don't have the foundation right, then whatever you try to build, it's going to crumble. And that's what we've seen with our results. We've not focused on the basics. And so that's why we're focusing on literacy so much this year. And I want to say to Jamaica that our teachers understand it and are ready. In June, the Ministry of Education had workshops for grade 1 to 3 teachers to work through the new literacy programs being put into our schools and also relating to the timetabling of reading. And over 90% of our teachers grade 1 to 3 showed up. That says that our teachers care about our children. They didn't have to. They didn't have to, but they did. They showed up because they know that this is the route to unleash the potential of our children. And so we're going to be working really hard on this issue of literacy because it's at the crux of everything. Even mathematics, you need to have that foundation in literacy in order to perform well in mathematics. And so that's a priority, and we're not backing away from that priority because it is very important. So we're going to have the enhanced reading classes. The ministry has done a good job of printing some new booklets. I've been reading them, seeing if I enjoy them. And we'll be giving those to our children because they will have books in their hands. One of the things that pained me as I was doing back to school shopping for my children, I saw some bookshops scaling down. And they were scaling down, and I was like, where are the reading books for the children? And they said they're not really selling much of those because the parents aren't buying them. Which is so sad, because when I think about myself and my growing up, all I had were my books. That's what I read. And now we're on TikTok. We give the children the phone. The phone isn't going to help their cognitive development. It's not helpful. And the eyesight issue, a lot of our children are struggling with it. And another thing I needed to note on this, since we're here, our children are coming to school tired in the mornings. Why are they tired in the mornings? Because of the devices. And I'll tell you, I have one at home. I have a teenager at home. And we lock off the internet at a particular time. We turn it off because they have to go to sleep. I have spoken to guidance counselors. I have also spoken to psychologists who are working with our children. And one of the alarm bells they're raising to me is how tired the children are in the days. That doesn't make them ready to learn. And that's where we talk about the parenting. We have to teach our parents these things. And it's not just the parents too. There are a lot of adults who I see just doom scrolling, especially on some of the social media sites. It doesn't help. We can't be doing that through the night. And so if we want to have the best of our children, we're going to have to make sure they get sleep. But in terms of literacy, we're going to have to work on this area. It means that when we get to high schools cannot teach all the subjects if you know you have children who cannot read. We're going to have to deviate. We're going to have to change up the syllabus. And we're going to have to make sure our children can read. The other thing I'll note is in relation to labs. And this is a big thing. We say that we're preparing our children for a STEM future. I've been into so many labs, the bio lab, the physics lab, the chemistry lab, and nothing not in there. All I see are some benches and some tables. Yeah, no Bunsen burners. I mean, just the basic things you would use. When I saw the biology results for CSEC, I was very happy. But then I said, you know what? That means we have miracle workers in our schools. Because if you can produce those results with nothing in the labs, you're miracle workers. But we can't stop there and call you miracle workers. We need to give you the resources. And that is why we did the audit of all science labs, because we felt that this was absolutely important. And we have a procurement that is ongoing where we're buying equipment for all physics, chemistry, and biology labs across the board. And so all our schools will get the equipment that they need. In addition to that, I also heard the point from President Malava in relation to us and the technical high schools and fixing up those schools. And so beginning this year, we're allocating $400 million from HEART to fix all of at least one lab in every single technical high school in Jamaica. Now those, I have seen, when you go in the woodwork shop and you see the equipment, that looks like equipment from maybe the 1950s. It is so obsolete. A lot of times they don't work. You see them stacked in a corner in a room because all of that equipment does not work. That's not preparing our children for the world of the future. And so that is absolutely important to us, that we do all of these TVET labs, and I'm going to come back to it. Computer labs are also very, very important. It is important that we provide the necessary technology, and that's why I'm glad that eLearning Jamaica is on the platform with us today, because they've been doing a lot of work. Every single secondary school was allocated 30 laptops. If you didn't get your laptop, come and tell us. Every secondary school was allocated those laptops to help with the labs. Now we know some schools already have really nice, pretty labs. But what we're trying to do is to make sure that at a minimum there's a standard across the system and that we have really good quality equipment going into all of our schools. We're going to have to continue that work. We're going to have to continue with the smart labs because it is absolutely important that we continue that trajectory that we're on, and we're going to have to do more. Now, when I talk about these $400 million labs for all of our technical high schools, I'm not speaking small. And our children deserve the best. Not just a little thing, the best. And especially at our technical high schools, because one of the things I want to say to these children is that you're not any lesser than if you're at a technical high school. If we look at where the world is going, the top jobs are in the technical areas. That's where the money is to be made. And we have to help our children to understand that when you're at a technical high school, you're at a good place, but they will only understand that if we treat the technical high schools properly. And so let me tell you some of the labs we're rolling out this year with that $400 million from HEART. Dunoon Technical High School is getting a robotics lab. St. Andrew Technical High School is getting a renewable energy lab. Kingston Technical High School is getting a virtual welding lab. For those of you who don't know, in the developed world, you don't have the welding sparks flying at you. You actually do it remotely. You have these machines where you program in what welding you want to do, and you do it from a distance, remotely. That's the technology they're getting at Kingston Technical High School. At St. Thomas Technical High School, we're doing an electrical engineering lab. At St. Mary Technical High School, we're doing a robotics and industrial controls lab that is in the area of mechatronics, which is a new area that is going to be very important. It looks at how you use robots in the manufacturing space. That's what we're building there. At Marcus Garvey Technical High School, they're getting a renewable energy lab. Nakalva Technical High School is getting a robotics lab. Herbert Morrison Technical High School is getting an optoelectronics lab. Homewood Technical High School, renewable energy. St. Elizabeth Technical High School is getting robotics and mechatronics. Jose Marti Technical, mechanical engineering lab. Dintil Technical High School, a digital construction lab and mechanical engineering. Vere Technical High School is getting virtual welding also. And Frome Technical is getting robotics. And Stony Hill Technical High is getting digital construction. We are not thinking small. And if you can see, these labs that we're doing, they're going to be state of the art. This is what you're seeing on screen is just a mock-up of how Hart is seeing it. It's going to have much technology in there. It's going to be really, really lovely when we are finished. It is us saying to our children that you deserve the best. What they have in North America or European schools and technical schools is what we are working to bring here. But we're not stopping there. You see that 400 million that we're putting into the technical high schools. We're going to do that for the regular secondary high schools in the years after. So we'll be building this technology. Don't worry if you're not at a technical high school. We're going to be rolling these types of labs out to our secondary high schools also, regular secondary high schools. So that's to come. Special education is another area that's dear to my heart and dear to the hearts of many teachers. And I keep hearing it over and over again. I have them in my classroom. I don't know what to do. I'm not equipped. This is not what I was asked to do. And so the special education programs that we have in our schools, we're going to have to expand them. We're going to have to do more in the area of special education. We know the statistics are clear globally. The number of children with special needs is increasing significantly around the globe. The same thing is happening in Jamaica. For many of you who've taught for a long time, I know you don't remember in the early days this many children with special needs. It's a global phenomenon, and we're going to have to meet it. And I'm very glad to see some of the work that is happening, especially in our teachers' colleges, that's working to educate our teachers about special needs and how to treat with them in the classroom. Because we've said we want to have a more integrated approach where necessary. Diagnostic centers, and I know President Malava brought that up. We are finalizing a diagnostic center at Case. So that will be for our children in Region 2, so that they don't have to come all the way to Kingston in order to access diagnostic services. And this is really important. I know the long wait. When I tell you, I've been there. I've been on the wait list, waiting to get a diagnosis for a child. I've been there. And I know how hard it is. And then when you get the date, it takes forever to get the report. So I understand it deeply. And it's something we have to fix. And this is where we're also going to need your help, because the ministry has several scholarships in this area, and we're asking our teachers to take up these scholarships. We also have scholarships at the Ministry of Health level for the Barry Wint scholarships, where we're trying to get Jamaicans to sign up to do courses like speech therapy and also occupational therapy and behavioral therapy, because our children need those services. And there are very few of those practitioners in our country. And given the data that we see in terms of the increasing number of children with special needs, we're going to need increased specialists in this area. And that's why between the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health, we're putting more scholarships in this area so that we can have the resources necessary. It doesn't make sense to build diagnostic centers and have nobody to work in there, or to get reports on what's wrong with your child and there's no one to work with the child. So this has to be a priority, and it is a priority of ours. PE and sports. As I go around the schools, I hear this a lot, that we don't, in the ministry, you don't put enough effort into PE. You don't value sports. And this is true. We value sports, but we need to put some more money there. And the reality is, for a lot of our children who may not be academically inclined, we have a responsibility to find what they are good at and to support them and celebrate them through this. And so in terms of sports and physical education generally, it is absolutely important. And I take it outside of the realm of just getting well-rounded students. That is important. But for a lot of our children, we've set up this system where only schools who do well in CSEC get the commendation. And then our schools with our children who may be struggling don't get the commendations. And we need to be able to say to these children that you matter, you're important, we're gonna find what you're good at. So sports, I keep hearing it when I go to the schools, the PE teachers take me on, and they tell me we need to do more for sports, especially for our non-traditional schools. And so during the course of this year, we want to work with the JT and with President Malava, because you did bring this up, as an area where we can look at, in conjunction with other parts of government, to provide the necessary resources for our non-traditional schools so that they can get the sporting programs in place that we believe will be able to help to build the confidence of our children. So that's a priority. There is one more which I should speak on, which is the gazetting of schools. And that is something, as I went to schools, I didn't realize this until I became minister, and I went to schools and I was accosted by teachers and principals. My school is not gazetted. And so there are obviously limitations there, because there are so many benefits that you cannot access. And it is not fair to our schools that are operating in good faith. And so the gazetting of schools is an urgent matter for me. And we've started that work. And one of the schools in one of the conferences that we had, the back-to-school conferences, from Region 2, reminded me about license. And then the other night, I also had President Malava reminding me about license, School of Success, and that was one that was really very important. And because of your advocacy, President, and also Principal, that one has now been gazetted. So I am listening to you, and I am responding as best as I can. And I'm even more happy to note that the Cabinet, when I took the gazetting submission, approved a new name for the licensed school, and it is now going to be called the Ina Barclay School Academy of Excellence, in honor of a former president of the JTA who did a lot of work to bring this school to reality. And so it's no longer the licensed school. It is now going to be called the Ina Barclay Academy of Excellence. And I'm really very happy for that, and to be able to tell you that here. And all the other schools that need gazetting, our legal team knows it's a priority, and we're going to be working to gazette all of the schools. It's been going on for too long, and we need to fix it. I also wanted to respond to a few things from President Malava and his presentation. And you know, I'm a hard marker, President. I'm a hard marker, but I saw the research that you put in to your presentation, and I appreciated the presentation. And I'll tell you, since I'm here with you, I was a teacher, but my first job while I was at university was in a call center. I don't know how many of you remember 115, if you're old enough to remember 115. All right, and ICAS too, I remember those things. So my first job was answering 115 calls. That was repair service. For those of you who remember back in the day, repair service was where you would call when you're upset over your phone not working. And so every shift I went to, I had people calling and cussing. They cuss me, they cuss me, they cuss me. Every single shift. And that's why I always say to people, it doesn't matter what job you start with. It doesn't matter. There's always something you can learn in that job. And at that call center, I learned calm. I learned patience. I learned that you need to let people tell you their frustrations. Don't pretend it's not there. Acknowledge it, listen to it, and then get to the point where you can have the conversation about moving forward. That's what I learned at the call center, at Cable and Wireless Call Center, while I was a university student. And so I understand where President Malava was going on Monday night. And I sat there and I took my notes and I teased out the key points. I know he's also performing for his audience, but I also took out the key things, right? And he did very well. And so, President, I want to thank you for that presentation, and I want to also go through the things that you said. One of them was funding for schools, related to funding for schools. And this is something that you and I spoke about yesterday also, and it relates to differential funding for schools. How do we fund schools that are non-traditional schools? Should every school get the same education? And that's a very important question. And I think across Jamaica, most people agree with you, President, on that particular matter. But it's how do we get there? And so what I'm saying to you is it's something that I remember from the Patterson Commission. It is something that we've not spent enough time on, and that we will work with you in particular in terms of looking at that framework. The other point that was made related to the Patterson report and the results of it. And we're at 30% implementation of the Patterson report. And one of the things I'm very happy about is the fact that the JTA is on the transformation committee. So the JTA is there at the table, and we want to hear your voice as we do the transformation. One of the things I also heard you speak about, President, was collaboration. And collaboration is important. Every single month, I do a meeting with the JTA team, every month. It's the second Wednesday of every month. And I have never missed a meeting with the JTA. And why is that? Because I respect them. I respect our teachers, and make myself available irrespective of what is going on for those meetings every second Wednesday. So in terms of collaboration, that's what I want. That's what I'm here for us to collaborate and work together. And I think it's been going well. And we've been able to fix some things. There are many things we haven't been able to fix yet. But I will tell you, they are fierce advocates for you. In those meetings, they are fierce advocates for you. So the collaboration will continue. I know I've spoken in the presentation to some of the points you had made, President, because you also spoke about promotion through the system, which we've said we cannot do. We can't just move our children forward. You spoke about social workers and absenteeism, and I agree with you, and we're working on that, and I've spoken to that. I've also spoken to TVET and our labs. You also spoke to STEAM schools, and those are the new schools that are contemplated. I just wanted to give a little bit of insight into those schools. There are 6 of them. They are not meant to be elite schools. They're not meant to be schools for children who pass a particular exam. They are meant to be schools that are re-envisioning the future. As I started with infrastructure and how poor the infrastructure I found across our schools and how we needed to address that. Some of our schools we may not be able to fix because they were built many years ago. And sometimes it may cost you more to try to retrofit and fix than to just build new. And so we need to see these 6 schools as schools that we're thinking about the future and what our classroom looks like. And you know, our classrooms look the same as when I went to school. This classrooms look the exact same today. That's not the kind of environment we want for the future. So while we are addressing the infrastructure problems in our schools, we do need to build new facilities that already have the state-of-the-art equipment that we need for our students. but the commitment is that these STEAM schools will not be elite schools. And so we will continue to work with the JTA, obviously hearing the views of our teachers as we roll out these schools. But the priority right now is fixing the problems in our schools and fixing the infrastructure, the failing infrastructure that we do see. And I'm glad to see that we've already been putting a lot of money there, and even more money is being allocated in this year. The other thing you brought up, President Malava, was in relation to the wage negotiations. And as you all know, I'm Minister of Education. My role is to advocate for the education system. And that is what I will continue to do. That is what I have always done, and I will continue to do so. In relation to the wage negotiations, I say to you, President, it is a negotiation. And as the Prime Minister said, we are committed to giving you the best possible offer. Best offer. No. As you know, I'm not Minister of Finance, right? So I'm going to tell you, right? So you do not need to look at that zero. Do not look at that zero. What we say to you is, we are ready. The Minister of Finance is ready. The PM has said, as a former teacher, as a former Minister of Education, teachers deserve a good salary. He has said that, and he means it. And so as we go back to the table, President, I expect that we will be negotiating in good faith, and that we will get to a position that you can come back to your teachers with, and that your teachers can feel that you have done them proud. And our commitment as government, our commitment is to give you the best deal. And actually, I should note that this commitment is being put in place because tomorrow morning at 9:30, there is a meeting of the National Partnership with the unions there to discuss wages. It will be at the Prime Minister's office, and we will have the unions there, we will have civil society there, we'll have government and opposition has been invited to it. So this is serious. We are serious about getting to you the best offer possible. And I know that your president will advocate and advocate and advocate. And I look forward to seeing it. But I also want to note, it will not just be about salaries. There also, and the president has spoken to me about anomalies from the last negotiation, and that those anomalies also have to be addressed. So it's not just, the go forward position, but it's also addressing some anomalies that you have found. And it's not just you, it's also you and other public sector workers that have seen that. And as I said, sometimes you have to stay in your lane a little bit, but I am behind the scenes pushing for you. And I'm pushing for you because I understand it. I understand sitting in that classroom. I understand getting your paycheck and looking at what others got. I understand it. I was there. And so I will continue to advocate for you in terms of what the ministry is doing. We're going to continue to support you. One of the key things too is, for me, I will continue to listen to you. I will continue coming to your schools. I will continue seeing what's happening. I will continue listening to you to tell me what the policy in the ministry should be. Because at the end of the day, I don't know it all. I don't know much. I have to rely on the experts. And you are the experts. You're the ones on the ground, and you're the ones that are leading the charge. And so, again, my commitment is to always be there, even in a sphere that's not mine, I will be there advocating for you, and I will be doing everything I can through the Ministry of Education to make sure that you get the tools that you need and that you are shown the respect that you deserve. And I thank you all, and I thank you for all of your work, and may God continue to bless all of you.
Whenever I have to come and speak, whenever I have to come and speak after the minister, I have to adjust up the mic. All right now. Okay, colleagues, so the minister is prepared to take, and her team is prepared to take questions. I seek your permission in operating from the chair. Can I? Thank you very much. All right, colleagues, so I'm going to ask that you restrict the preamble. We are going to take two at a time, and I want you to just get straight into the questions. So here's where we are. Mic 1 is where Trustee Howard is. Mic 2 is Laverne. Mic 3 is behind Trustee Howard. Mic 4 is behind Laverne. That being said, Trustee Howard, you have the floor. Turn it on. Turn it on.
Real trustee. We have approximately 2,600 basic schools. And from my recollection, we are moving very slow in getting infant department in schools. The mere fact that 20 years ago we had approximately 50,000 students doing GSAT, now it's down to about 33,000. It means that there is space in many of our primary schools that can take on these departments, infant departments. How many infant departments have been created over the past 3 years? Because from my note, it may just take about 100 years to get to the point of getting the schools in that place. Quickly, number 2, the issue of Jamaica, the net exporter of talents, and especially from our education system. What strategies or program do you have to recruit some of these talents back in the education system? And I note also that you have mentioned these technical schools, but you did not mention anything about adding to the establishment to getting the necessary talents or teachers on the establishment to teach in the school. Have you prepared post number or teachers to teach in these institutions?
Thank you, Mr. Howard.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Laverne Johnson, delegate, Northwest St. Catherine District Association. I rise to speak specifically for my school about infrastructure where I work. I've been at that school from 1996.
Mercy.
And the same benches that I've seen when I was going to school, there's those benches that are still in the school for the most part. Teachers have not gotten a table and a chair for years. For years, we have not received a table or a chair. I'm also speaking about the staff spaces. We do not have a staff room. And when I ask about it, we are told that the ministry says they are not building any more staff rooms because teachers don't need staff room. If we are in a classroom and feel sick, I'm speaking specifically to my school, I have to sit at my table or get in my car and ask permission to go home. There's nothing to Davis Primary and Infant School in Old Harbor. So these are the issues: infrastructure, staff spaces, because I've not seen the ministry build any building from the first time they put up that structure in 1973. We have to go out and ask, and some of the buildings that we ask for, they are termite infested, and nothing is being done about it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for those questions. It was several, not two, or infant departments. That is a commitment, and I'm glad that the number of PEP students was brought up, where we've gone from 50,000 to 30,000, 30-something thousand, because of the declining birth rate, which was brought up by President Alon in his presentation also. And so there is
Colleagues, can we listen? You will have the opportunity to go to the mic. I know the statement hit a nerve, but I just want us to listen to the minister. It's the minister's turn to speak to us. Go ahead, Minister.
All right, so as I said, there is a pool of funds which is $300 million for furniture. Any school who has an issue with furniture and you feel that you've not been able to get the support that you need, please come to us after and let us know, because the financing is there. And of course, you know, sometimes I'll go to a school and they'll tell me that this is a problem and we can easily fix it. So I'm glad that you're raising it, and it sounds like other people have the same challenge in terms of furniture. So if you have an issue with furniture, come to us, please, and we will sort it out for you.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, after this, you can expect a very long line. Yeah. Member at the back, at the mic to my right, at the back, yes?
Okay.
Number 3.
Mr. Minister, colleagues, all good morning. Suzette Baker Tolo, delegate, Maypen, DA. I don't really have a question, but I have some recommendations, and I do hope you'll take them.
Thank you very much for recommendations. I always accept them. Thank you.
These recommendations are proactive, and they will ensure that Jamaica really becomes a place where all of us can achieve our full potential in a safe and secure environment. So the first proposal speaks to going back to the basic, and that is the early childhood. Commendation on the initiative as it relates to reading. I love where you're going. I would like you to extend it a little further downward as it relates to early childhood. You have the textbook initiative. I'm recommending that you put that as a part of your portfolio in the near future, where textbooks are sent to the infant department or in the early childhood sector. This will also help with the parents in ensuring that all our babies, they have that resource to use. That is recommendation 1. Recommendation 2, as it relates to infrastructure. We know that the data tells us that ECC has failed, and I want to think that the reason why that is so is because most of our infant schools are not certified. As I stand there as a principal, I can tell you one of the biggest issues is the building. We have what is known as a special canteen, special repair canteen grant. If you can help the early childhood sector by having a special certification grant, that will help to address infrastructure issues, that will help us a long way. We're tired of doing fundraising, and I know that the regions, they want to help, but their hands are tied where that is concerned. Finally, as it relates to safety and security, and I'm happy that my regional director is here because he's aware of the situation. For the last 3 years, Fogo Road Infant School have been broken into. For the last 2 years, Fogo Road Infant School have been broken into 3 times. All our assets have been stolen. If they were not stolen, they were damaged. Talk about grills. Grills were cut. The doors were dug off. Our filing cabinets, we can't even secure documents anymore. What happened as a result of that? That has taken away funding from doing what is most important. And so I'm going to ask you to consider, speak to those who have maybe the power to do it, to consider using the initiative at the regional office where they have special constables, to put special constables into our schools as well. And remember, in our schools is where our most important possessions are, and they are our students. 3 simple but doable recommendations that will have a snowball effect in solving other problems. Thank you very much.
Mike 4.
Good morning, Alfred Thomas. I'm not certain if it was mentioned, but I didn't hear it, but Pillar 7 of Trend speaks to financing of education. My last check, unfortunately, the progress was at 19%, and I would have asked this question to the former Minister of Education last year regarding what are the plans for the increase in the allocation for operational grant per capita for each school. We have been operating at the same figure from 2016. Things have gone up, triple, quadruple, and we can go on. But the per capita has remained the same. Now, while we appreciate the investment in capital expenditure in repairing and building out some of the labs, the operational grant is very, very critical. And so when I asked last year, I was told that a committee was in place to look at the funding arrangement. I have not heard of progress, so we are a week and a half away from the start of school. So what are the plans regarding an increase in the funding allocation per capita for each student for the academic year?
Thank you.
A solution, recommendation regarding, because I've listened and I would have had the privilege to visit a few primary schools in the last couple of weeks to look at furniture. And I must say in 2018, there was a project where the ministry entered an MOU with some high schools for the repairing of furniture. High schools were clustered. We partnered with high schools and primary schools. Furniture were repaired, and I know a lot of schools benefited from that program. So since we have 300 million available, we can re-enter that MOU with the schools so that the high schools that have the facility can go. Because I can tell you, I've been to 2 primary schools in the last couple of weeks, and they are going to have problems to open in September regarding termite infestation and broken furniture. So if we re-enter that MOU with the high schools, and also when the schools do the repair, we are compensated in a timely manner. Because unfortunately at Brownstown High, we're still waiting on payment for repairs that were done last August. So we can enter the MOU. I know high schools do have the facility to do the repair, and that will go a far way in improving the furniture issues in schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Minister.
All right. Thank you very much. And I always welcome suggestions, and I'm very happy to have gotten those suggestions. So in terms of the first set, I just say yes, I agree with you, and I've written them down. But at the early childhood level, I know there was a question about textbooks. What we do have at the early childhood level is really trying to teach different skills. We're trying to teach sharing. We're trying to teach them how to be real citizens at an early stage and play. And so what we've been doing is through the Chase Fund, we've been providing manipulatives. There's a play curriculum that is being used. And so we're providing equipment to the early childhood institutions. Now, obviously the ministry is going to have to get a lot more involved, but I take that point. In relation to the canteen and certification grant. That's a very good suggestion, and I will take that forward. In relation to security in the schools, another very good point, and it does go back to something that we've seen change in the country. In the past, the community protected the school. Now we're finding more and more where we give really good equipment and then it's stolen. And that's a real big problem that we have. And we're going to have to obviously work closer with the police. In relation to the financing of education, those points there, just to note, you had said that last year there was an answer that there were committees. There are committees for every stage that are currently working. Their reports are due back in November. JTA is on each of those committees. And so we will be hearing more about financing of education, but I want to take it a lot further, and your president has also said that we need to look at potentially differential funding, especially for the non-traditional high schools, and that's something that we are doing. In relation to furniture, I'm told your school did very well on that furniture repair program, and so there are some schools that did very well as a part of that program, and I have no objection to us continuing as you've suggested and rolling that out and using the funds that we have. You also brought up termites, and I said it in my presentation. Termites are a problem. I've seen it all over the place. And so we allocated $100 million for termite treatment. 102 schools are getting termite treatment. Now, obviously, if you're not on that list, you can work through the region to find out if you are on that list. If you have a critical termite problem, as I said before, let us know and we can put you on that list. But we did a big procurement. It took a long time to get the companies to put in their bids, but we are spending $100 million on termite treatment. It's a problem across the board.
Just for clarity, Minister, with respect to the funding, I just wanted clarity that the committees are in place and that there's a deadline in which
November.
By November.
Yes.
Duly noted, Minister.
Yes.
Mike 1.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Honorable Minister, colleagues, good morning.
Good morning.
I am Melissa Beckford, a teacher of history. I say that because my question is, or comments are more from a structural perspective rather than the nitty-gritty points you spoke to, Minister. And the Patterson report alluded to the two different school systems in Jamaica, a 10% and a 90%. And I am asking, how are you treating with that the decolonizing of the education system? Because some of the things that you spoke to, you did not use decolonizing language. For example, you spoke to physical education and sport, and then your statement after that immediately was students who are not as academically inclined. Now, and then also you had I noticed that the technical, the labs and so on, the schools you named were all technical schools. And I am not contradicting myself because yes, we're talking about equity in the financing and resources, but at the same time, there are also traditional schools who could do with some of those labs. And so what I'm saying is, how are you looking at decolonizing the system so that we do, in fact, channel students regardless of where they fall on the learning curve and what it is that they're inclined to do? It should not be that it's students who are not as academically inclined. We shouldn't have those statements coming there. It should be any student from any school in Jamaica who wants to go into whatever career, regardless, should be able to, and those kinds of facilities should be everywhere so that students can access them. Those are my comments, Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam. Mike 2. Hold a minute. Colleagues, I'm just going to ask that if you have any questions to stand behind the mic, because I'm going to, at a certain point, stop. With, I am taking note of the last persons behind each mic. I'm just going to ask you to go behind the mic so I can take note of the individuals who are there, because after that, we will. Are there any other persons who may want to ask a question? Duly noted, everyone. So I have 4 at mic 1, 4 at mic 2. I have 4 at mic 3, Madam Wall.
Yes, sir.
And I have 4 at mic 4. The thing, so it balance. 5 at?
Mic 1.
Duly noted. So we're at mic 2 now. Go ahead, member.
Good morning, everyone. Onyx Bowen, the chair of the primary committee. Minister, when will the principals, the teachers, students, and parents know the changes that will be made to the primary exit profile? Will this still be done during the 2025 to 2026 academic year? The stakeholders that I have mentioned are very anxious, seeing that school is scheduled to begin on the 1st of September, and we know that these changes will have several implications, so it is very crucial for us to know this in a timely manner, to be advised about this. Thank you.
Mic 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues all. My name is Georgia Ward Richards, and I'm the regional officer for the South Central region of the Jamaica Teachers Association. Honorable Minister, we are grateful to you and your team for having joined us this morning again in another annual conference. And indeed, this is a session that is highly anticipated at every conference. Equally, the presentation, the inaugural address made by our presidents at every conference, they are highly anticipated. And we believe as an association that they add much to the national discourse on education. And that is why I stand, Honorable Minister, to say that there was a comment in your presentation this morning referencing our president's inaugural address as a performance.
Yes, yes.
I personally believe that this undermines our president's contribution to the national discourse on education. And it is my belief also, Honorable Minister, that this statement might need your careful attention. I thank you.
Your time, Minister. That's 2. That was 2. Okay. Okay.
All right,
Go
thank
ahead.
you. All right, those were three, and I'll go in order. There was a discussion around the decolonization of the system. And the reality is that our system, as I've said many times, it focuses and it rewards particular results. And those results come from particular schools that have many times more resources. They have students who have parents who are extremely involved, and they are also students who have been given a lot of resources to get them to where they are. And it is not fair to our children. It is important that we lift up the entire system. We have to understand that every child is unique. Every child. And one of the things I was so happy to see with our PEP results this year was that usually it's around 3 schools that are at the top. When you look at the top 10 students, they're going to 3 schools. This year, there were 6 different schools represented in the top 10 schools. And that was very, very good and encouraging, including a technical high school. Our students are choosing schools differently, and I'm happy about that. And what we have to do is to make sure that there is much more equity across the system. The focus on TVET and our technical schools is because we understand that we have to spend some time retooling those schools. They've been left alone, but we're doing work, and we've been putting in labs. And there are many of the labs, so the ones I told you were the HART state-of-the-art labs that we're going to be doing this year. But there have already been several labs that we've done in terms of Stony Hill, St. Mary, Manning's, Jose Marti, and Vare Technical. And then there's some more that are going to be happening at Fern Court, New Forest, Morat Bay High, Frome Technical, and Bustamante also. And so we're starting with the technical high schools with the 400 million from HART. But as I said in my presentation, it will not stop there. It will go to the other secondary schools too. So we start with the technical high schools, but many of our high schools also need robotics labs that are not technical high schools. And so we have to put those in place there. In relation to, I'm looking through the other ones. In terms of PEP, there was a question about PEP. There was a bulletin that had been sent out already in relation to grade 6 changes. If you've not seen it, you can just check through to see it. It was sent out on grade 6. In relation to grade 5, we were having discussions, and remember, we tried to make the decisions in a consultative manner. From where we sat in the ministry and doing our evaluations, we didn't feel there was a need for the grade 5 test. And in consultation, that has been something that has come up, and we've gotten mixed responses in relation to grade 5. So grade 6 is set in terms of having the exam start later, because this starting in February can really be very difficult for you to finish the content, because you're starting to have to prepare for exams from too early, and there are way too many exam days. And so those changes are going to take place, and that bulletin has been sent. We also noted that we don't have a checkpoint for numeracy and literacy at grade 6, and so we will do a checkpoint at that point. So no need to teach anything different, but that would be added. But all of that is in the bulletin that was sent. The grade 5 one, we're still having some final consultations on grade 5, and as soon as that, we will send that out, and grade 4 remains the same. So please look at that bulletin. And in terms of President Malava's speech, and I did tell him, and I said it very publicly, that I felt that he did a lot of research for his presentation, and I did commend him on his presentation, and that remains my focus. I commend him for that research. He didn't even get to go through all of his speech because he put a lot of work into it, and you saw the data that was coming out. It was very rich with data. And that's what we all want, right? We all want to be able to come with our data and to hear it. And I thought that you did a fantastic job. I thought you did a fantastic job in putting on the table. Now, and I will leave it at that. I think you did a good job, President.
No.
I think you did a good job. Okay. Oh, I just spoke to the president and got his advice, and he said that, I won't say that, but he just told me. But in terms of that statement around performance, it was said in jest, and as I said before, I thought he did a well-researched presentation. He did a well-researched presentation. And we withdraw it. We withdraw the statement. I've withdrawn it. And I've said it was said in jest. I've withdrawn it.
Okay, colleagues. Okay, colleagues. Colleagues. I'm going to use, as the person who's chairing the proceedings, I'm going to use my privilege. I still stand on in terms of the view, Minister, that the move to build out the STEM school, it's a misadvised move. It's ill-advised. And I say that because there's no population explosion across the country to warrant the building of these schools. And I've heard you, but it seems as if we are taking the move to further entrench what I refer to as apartheid education system. All schools should STEM and STEAM, and not just some. And it's a lot of money that was borrowed to build these schools. I am saying it is better to use this money to build out the infrastructure of the schools, and let us start with the early childhood and primary schools. Please. But we will talk some more, Minister.
And yes. I can clarify now, and I know you and I will be talking a lot. Mm-hmm. And in relation to the STEM schools, and as I have said, it is not one or the other. We have to retrofit the schools, and we need to do some new plans. And while we're not having the explosion in babies, we're not having enough children, and the numbers aren't going up, what we do find, though, is that there are shifts in the population. So when you look in St. Anne, for example, there's an explosion in St. Anne. There are a lot of housing developments. There are a lot of new housing developments in parts of St. Catherine. And so given the shifting population, it is something that we're going to have a lot of conversations, President, in relation to how we best address it. And your points are valid, and that's where conversation happens, and that's where dialogue is important, so that we can reach to what's the best thing for our education system.
Thank you, Minister. I believe we're at mic 4. Okay.
Good morning. Maureen Mullins Nelson, Delegates St. Andrew Parish Association. I may sound like a broken record, but I'll ask the question nonetheless. It was mentioned by our president in his inaugural speech, and the minister also spoke about it this morning, the matter of funding. And I ask the question because I want a timeline. When will the ministry move away from funding schools solely based on students' numbers and not on the needs-based funding model that reflects the realities of each institution? And I ask this because our principals and our teachers here can tell you that we have Jeans Day, we have Crocs Day, we have Socks Day, we have everything but a bag day, we have Hat Day. Why? Because schools have to be struggling to get the necessary resources that they need. I worked in a school for 18 years, and part of my job, I call it, was that of a fundraising agent. And I think our teachers are tired of doing fundraising. So, Minister, we are asking for a timeline in terms of a policy. The task force report of 2004, the Patterson report of 2021, all speak to the fact that our schools must be funded in a particular way. In fact, the Patterson report states that Jamaica's way of funding school is almost obsolete. So we're looking at a timeline. Another thing that is of great concern to me as a trained home economics teacher is that of nutrition. You know, while on the campaign trail, I visited many schools and I see our students drinking, I call it sugar and water in a bag and bulla. And sometimes they get one bag and maybe a little sugar and water. When will the matter of good nutrition for our students be addressed? Because we know that hungry students can't learn. And then a recommendation. Some years ago, I was part of SWPBIS, and I am suggesting that we revisit the funding of school-wide positive behavior intervention and support to give support to our teachers in schools where we have serious behavioral challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Mic 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Loretta Roberts, East Kingston DA President. My question to you, Madam Dixon, Minister Dixon, you mentioned that grade 1 and 3 teachers participated into a workshop in regards to literacy. Commendable to you, a commendable initiative. However, I would like to ask, what measures are being taken to support students who are already in the secondary school system, especially those who are progressing through the grades but still facing literacy challenges? I mean, most of the secondary schools only have one literacy teacher, only one. And with that, they also have to teach English language and literature. No. Also, those are the students who are most times very disruptive in the class. So my second question is, how is the ministry addressing these behavioral challenges alongside academic support in secondary schools? Thank you.
Over to you, Minister.
All right, thank you for those questions. On the funding one, I had noted that we are looking at funding at all of the levels and that there is a report that's coming in, that's due from the committees, the JTAs on those committees. Those reports are due November 2025. That's just in a few months. And then we will move from there. In relation to nutrition, there's a lot, I would have spoken about nutrition. There's a lot that we're doing. We're adding $1 billion to the funding for school nutrition. And we are mainly at the NSLIP schools, which are schools that need the greatest support. And so nutrition, I agree with you completely. I don't think any of us can work when we're hungry. And our children cannot learn when they are hungry. And so it is a priority. Nutrition is a priority. And we're going to have some difficult conversations too. We have a school nutrition policy that speaks to how we get proper nutrition in our schools. I've already been speaking with the Ministry of Agriculture Because again, when I go around to the schools and you look at lunch, you know, a lot of times it's rice and chicken, and we don't have the vegetables in there because it can't stretch to the vegetables. But we have our farmers. We have our farmers who we need to integrate with from the ministry and buy more from the farmers. And we have to look at a program there, and we're talking to the Ministry of Agriculture to see how we can supplement to at least get vegetables in. And also we are looking at expanding our school gardening programs too, to have the school gardens and so on. But the nutrition one is really, really important because we're gonna get suboptimal outcomes. We're also doing some work with the cooks so that the cooks can get training on nutrition. We're also supporting them quite significantly there. And oh yes, also the menu guides. We're also giving them some guides in relation to potential menu changes. In terms of, there was a question about literacy and what's happening at the high school level, the secondary level, and that's true. There are a lot of children at the secondary level who have challenges. Obviously, many of them would be in the NSLIP schools, and so we are currently working with these schools. We're putting in more interventions on the literacy area, and we've also sent out directives to the schools that said, be as flexible as possible. You don't have to do every single subject. You can change. The principals know their schools, they know what is needed. We're giving you that authority to be flexible in what you do, because if you get students who cannot read, we don't believe that you should just let them do all the subjects. So just customize, and we'll work with you and we'll provide the resources there. In terms of behavioral challenges, wow, that's a big one. There are a lot of behavioral challenges in our schools. And one of the things we're doing too is providing the support outside of the school context. We have some psychologists and counselors that are employed. Well, we've entered into contracts with them, and they are available for you. So if you have a student who has significant behavioral challenges, you need to refer them so that they can get the treatment they need and they can come out of that state that they're in. They need a lot of support. And just note, the ministry pays these professionals. And so let's use it up, use up the services. Mr. President.
Thank you, Minister. Okay, my two.
Good afternoon, good morning. Nikki James Bucknell, West Central, St. Andrew Day. My first question is not to you, Minister, but to the other ministry personnel at the head table. Last year I came here and I asked a question. I was basically embarrassed a little when somebody made a statement. My question was, why is it so difficult for teachers to be paid when they do outside work for the ministry? Working like if they do summer schools for the ministry or they mark for the ministry. But if you, the teachers, owe the ministry, that money is just taken out one time. Whether or not you can afford it, yes or no, it's just taken out. Now in 2019, I did some work for, it is now EAAB, which was SAU. Money was not paid to me. It was paid out, but was not received by me. And from 2019, I have been trying to get the money. Then I did the summer school during COVID. Money was not paid. I've been trying to get that money paid to me. Last year when I came and somebody at the head table said then she have to wait until when she reached conference, we said that. That was what was said, I heard it. I decided to seek advice from Mr. Malarvo, who worked about 6 months or more on the issue. I'm still not paid. And some of these are the issues why teachers leave. Not so much salary, because we know the salary when we are going in, but it's when you actually put out, go out, deliver, because you need the additional, and yet still you're still not paid. That's my first question. My second question is to you now, Minister. I'm a special education teacher with a special child myself. And I saw the scholarship for the persons, the clinical psychologists for teachers, and I decided to apply. The scholarship ends in June, but then you're not able to apply to the university before then. So you would actually have to apply to the university, start a year before you will be able to apply to the ministry to know whether or not you have gotten the scholarship. No, this is beyond my pocket because the tuition is almost $3 million. I've been doing special education for over 14 years and would love to do the clinical psychologist because I've actually worked within that industry with a certified clinical psychologist. Now, I'm suggesting that we apply through the JTA, because it has been done before where Hart actually asked the JTA to get teachers to do a course. I think it was supervisory management. So if us as teachers, special education teachers who actually would like to do the clinical psychology, apply through JTA, and then we are secured a space, and then the scholarship is given to us. I'm sure it would work much better, and you would actually get more persons applying because we are already within special education. Because anywhere you go, special education is the least area that you will have persons applying. And when I went to Michael, it was just 12 persons within that cohort. We are in high demand, and I've always said if I needed to go to the US, I would have reached already. But I prefer to stay here and work with the children that we have here. Because as you said, you are coming from cable and wireless. I am coming from cable and wireless too, where the money was big. I could do anything I want, but it was not fulfilling. And that's my word today.
Mic 3.
Good morning, colleagues. Ramona Bromfield, Parish President, St. Catherine, Principal, Port Endison Primary School. I have two requests. One, I'm requesting for the maintenance fund for schools, primary schools, to go up from $150,000. It is not doing anything for the school for the 3 terms. The other, I have to be hosting students in my resource.
Please speak in the mic, member.
Can you hear me now?
Much better.
Thank you. I have to be hosting students.
Start over, please.
Ramona Bromfield, Parish President, St. Catherine, Principal, Port Endison Primary School.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I am requesting for the maintenance grant for schools, primary schools, to be increased from $150,000 for the school year. Yes. The other request is that I have to be hosting students in the Digital Resource Lab and also in my school's staff room. I've written to my regional director. She tried in assisting for us to get adverse possession of the land that we are on, but we are getting nowhere. I'm seeking for assistance from the minister, the permanent secretary, whoever else up there can assist. I have written to Food for the Poor, but because I have no title for the land, I additional classrooms. Thank you.
Minister? Yes.
Get something. All right. Payments. That was the first one, and I know I'm not supposed to answer that, so I'll give it to the team after, but that is not acceptable in any way that you could have worked in 2019 and not be paid.
Just,
And
just for point of information, Minister, I know Ms.
it's
Brin
unacceptable.
should be able to give some answer on this
Okay.
one.
All right. But I will leave that one, but just to note, it is unacceptable. And then in relation to the suggestion special needs scholarships, and especially in terms of the clinical psychology suggestion, that was a very good one, and I've written it down as one that we should pursue. So thank you for that one. In terms of the increase in the maintenance fund, that's a part of the funding exploration that's being done now. And remember I said that the report and the recommendations from those committees that you're on, the JTA is on, will come to me in November. And then we will work from there across the entire funding related area. There was also a question space, the need for more space at school. We've made a note of it, and I'll intervene where I can in order to address that one. Yeah.
Mike 4.
Just quickly again to apologize to, you're hearing me, right?
Yes, we are.
Right. Minister, I want to apologize to the teacher for that situation. We know last year there was a challenge with a dormant account. We have been working that through. I'm getting from my technical team that the amounts, it was paid to your account 2 days ago, but we are verifying it and we'll take that evidence. 2 days ago,
Hold on, colleagues.
allow me to finish.
Colleagues, I'm appealing for us to just lower the noise. The ministry team is responding.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Right, so we will come to the floor subsequently just to provide the evidence to you. I'm not going to take it for granted based on what my technical team just provided, but overall, we just want to apologize for that. It's regrettable, it ought not to be, and as you know, we have been trying our very best to improve the system of payment, and I really want to thank the principals who have been supporting us in getting the documents in early. Last year, if you recall, we had a significant decline in the number of teachers who were unpaid throughout the year. We got our principals to support us in getting the documents on time. There's a bulletin that will be coming out again, just to remind our principals of the documents to be submitted. I have already put the team in Central. We have to put the team in Central on overtime to respond to the differences happening on the ground with respect to resignation and employment and putting in the things on time, because there are systems with the Accountant General for us to pay on time. And so we have to work out from now an exceptional facility for our teaching system to ensure that we can reduce the number of teachers who are unpaid. And if you agree with me, from last year's experience, you would not have seen a high number of persons being unpaid. In September and October, we were able to run about 6 different payrolls, and it's supposed to be 1 per month, just to make sure that we could respond to the needs of our teachers on the ground. So we have been trying extremely hard to ensure that we don't have situations like these. So for those extra situations, we still have to work them through, and we do apologize.
Thank you, Minister. Mike 1.
No, you had said Mike 4. You had said Mike 4.
Sorry. It would have been Mike 4. My apologies.
Nadine Mosley Blake, Montego Bay DA2. Minister, I must commend you for visiting over 70 schools, as you mentioned last night, and for listening to us and hearing what our concerns are. My concern is we're commending you for paying attention to the literacy needs of our students. And at my school, we are having a literacy problem. And one of the problems, in addition to what you spoke about, the food and transportation, we have parents who are keeping the children at home, babysitting, and other reasons. So we want to know if the ministry has anything that they can do. Well, you also said we are to encourage our parents, but any sanctions or anything for parents, as teachers are always being blamed. And in addition, we have a special ed need as well. Sam Sharp has a diagnostic center, but they do not deal with behavioral issues. And also, sometimes when we recommend the parents, they are offended. We do not diagnose children. We tell them we are just recommending the diagnosis. But some of them, nothing is wrong with my child, and the attitude. And so teachers are sometimes afraid to make the referrals. My second concern is regarding the infrastructure. You spoke to that as well. We have the termite issue. The building is very old and all of that. But we also have a fencing, the perimeter fencing issue. Our regional director, Dr. Walden Pinnock, is here. I am not sure if our school is on that list, Granville Primary and Infant. So we are asking you to address the fencing as well, because we're in a community where people are running off the road and running onto the school compound. People are running for rescue. Even recently, a child had to run from the road and so on. So we would like that to be right. The final issue I would like, regarding one, before the final, regarding the literacy issue.
One more, I'm going to allow you to ask one more question.
No, it's still on the literacy.
Yeah,
For the
go
grade
ahead.
4, we are concerned that the children are just transitioning from the grade 3, where they are doing right. So we are asking that instead of the performance task, maybe just to focus on the literacy for the grade 4 PEP.
Okay.
But the other question I wanted to ask, maybe is for the JTC person, regarding the teacher in service professional development. We all want to do professional development, but I'm concerned that too many of these sessions are in the holidays and after school, and some of us are struggling with health issues and other responsibilities. We would like something to be done so that those who are not able to access it during those times.
Okay, thank you much. Mic 1, and since we're now at mic 1, I'm going to ask that we restrict our preamble. Time is up on us, colleagues, and we have to manage it. And I'm going to ask that you just get straight into the question. I'm still going to allow you to ask up to 2 questions, but you'll forgive me if I cut you off as you start the 3rd question. Mr. McNamee?
Yes, good. It's still morning. McNamee, General Counsel, Principal, Broadleaf Primary and Infant School in the parish of Manchester. Minister, I have 2 recommendations for you this morning. We have an issue, a long-standing issue with parenting in our in education. That aspect of the triangle is not being addressed. And I want to make a recommendation this morning to you to infuse parenting into the PATH program. We continue to complain about this issue, and we need to start attacking it from the root. Attach a parenting program to the PATH program. Once a lady becomes pregnant, they start to attend parenting classes You tie those classes with the path incentive. You're not paying them, but you're incentivizing the process so that we do not have to build prisons a little later on. Because if we don't spend it now, we'll have to spend it later. Secondly, the scope for upward mobility in teaching is very limited. I am proposing that we look at a master's scale. Teachers, it is extremely difficult. I taught in a primary school in St. Thomas for 16 years, and I could not be promoted because there was no space for a senior teacher. So I'm suggesting that since we cannot earn through that medium, we should earn through our qualifications. Finally, Minister, I used $4.5 million and I built...
Mr. McNamee, I said 2.
The question coming now, sir. All right.
You get to it. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So,
but just ask the question going forward. Members, just ask the question going forward. You get to it. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So I used $4.5 million to build 4 classrooms, an office, and a technology area. Minister, I created a miracle. Right now, my teachers have nowhere to sit when they are tired. I am in need of a staff room. Thank you.
That wasn't a question, Mr. McNamee. That wasn't a question.
All right. Thank you for those.
Minister. All right, members. Mr. McNamee, take a seat. Go ahead, Minister.
All right, I'll start with the last question and suggestions, and I thank you for all your suggestions. The parenting tied to path is interesting, and it's something that I think I heard the president say to me before. So that is something that is very interesting to me. And it's coming at not a bad time. It's actually a good time that you're suggesting it, because right now but he's not listening to me.
Mr. McNamee.
I'm answering you on your path thing. I think it's a good suggestion. And I'm saying it's the right time for it to come, because right now there is a review of path going on. And I had mentioned it before, and I think the JTA really should, given its role as a key partner in this, give proposals to this process, to be a part of that process. So path is currently being reviewed. And I agree with you that we need to figure out different ways. It can't work the old ways. And we have to realize that parenting is also a responsibility. And there are certain things that have to come out of the parent. And so I love the suggestion that you have made, and I will put it forward, and I'd love it to be formally brought also. So in relation to your staff room, as I said, we have a staff room project, and I know the PS will give you favorable treatment on that. In terms of the points before, in terms of truancy and parents keeping children at home, it links back to us needing to do more in relation to speaking to the value of parenting. Also, the point that was made in relation to our special needs children and parents being in denial, that's a very, very important point that you have made. There are many parents I always give the story of the parent who came to me and said, my child has a touch of autism. And I said, oh, your child has autism? And she's like, just a touch. And I said, it's okay. It's okay for your child to be autistic. Now let's just figure out how we move it forward. And we do have to destigmatize it. And so we're going to have to do a lot more work to help our parents, to say to them, and I sometimes say it, I have a child with special needs, to try to say, you know, it's okay. It's all right. And we're going to get through it. And that's why we have to do more in the ministry to support these parents. Because for a lot of parents, you know, they feel bad. They don't know how to deal with it. They don't know where to turn, what to do. And we're going to have to support them a lot more in that. I heard the fencing and the termite issue again, and we're working on that problem. It's really acute. And then the grade 4 suggestions in terms of the performance task, we'll keep that on board. Flexibility in relation to when the professional development related type activities are taking place. That's an important point. I know JTC has a lot of self-paced programs, and we're trying to move to that direction much more, and we'll need to obviously accelerate on that so that we're not taking away your holidays from you.
Thank you. Any further comment on Mr. McNamee's statements about a broadleaf primary in the parish of Manchester? Okay. Okay. You answered. Okay. We are now back to mic 2.
Yes. Good morning, colleagues. I am Leighton Johnson, past president, one removed. Mr.
Welcome,
President,
sir.
Thank you, sir. I have 3 questions, and I know the president is going to allow me to ask the 3rd, because the 3rd impacts him as well. Madam Minister, some time ago, the Ministry of Education embarked on service-level contracts within schools. We're asking, is there the consideration of revisiting this approach so that schools can treat with minor works in a more efficient way? That's question 1. Question 2 has to do with the tax administration of Jamaica. Now, I recently returned to Mushet High School. The question is, when will the ministry regularize the payments of taxes to the tax administration so that principals will not get these frightening notices to climb the steps of a courthouse? And the final question, Mr. President, this has to do with the outstanding payments for traveling for the Bursa paid schools. That matter is still outstanding. Is there a timeline to this? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You were right. I would have allowed you. Mic 3. And you are the last person at mic 3. Go ahead.
Yes, I am. Good morning, Madam Minister and PS. Dion Bailey, delegate Kingston, and a trained and proud basic school teacher. My question is, the budget last year for early childhood was 13.98%. I know you're not the Minister of Finance, but what is the upgrade in this budget? Seeing that the literacy problem, it didn't start at primary school. It starts at the roots. So we need to know what the budget is. This question is for PS Troop. Madam, I've seen where you have introduced the cross-sectoral board in ECC, and you are the head of it. My question is, when will the parish boards that represent basic schools be reactivated so we have a proper channel to channel our plights of what is happening in the basic school? And also, back in the days, we used to get some teaching aids from Ministry of Education, those charts and those things, to help our pockets. So we need to go back to that, because unless we spend the money where it's needed, at the grassroots, then the tree will not bear the good fruit. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you. Did somebody join? The fourth mic? All persons that are currently at the fourth.
No, it's just us.
You are the last person?
Yes.
Christine was the last person.
No, she's not there.
You are the last person?
She joined after.
I'm trying to figure out who was the last person at mic. Okay, so we can't accommodate. If there's more time, then I'll accommodate you. But as it is now, we can't accommodate anybody else. But go ahead, Mike. Mike. Mike 1.
Mike 4.
Oh, thank you. We are now at Mike 4.
Okay. All right. Good morning. Good morning.
Hold on, member. Okay, continue. No. The time allotted for this session has expired. Could someone move a motion for an extension by half an hour?
Good morning, sir. Leslie Thomas from Manchester Parish. Move the motion for the extension of the session by 30 minutes.
Do we have a seconder? By? Is Lauren Bramwell shakes. That's a teacher's voice right there. Continue, member.
All right. Good morning again. Halima Jackson, delegate, principal of Wilbert Stewart Basic School. I come to speak on behalf of the children within the basic schools. I think we at the basic school have the greater percentage of the vulnerable citizens of Jamaica. When I speak on behalf of the teachers, I get little attention, so I come to speak from the children's viewpoint. So I have had the opportunity to lead 2 basic schools, one which had 220 students and the other now with a little over 300. And I've seen where programs, external programs like something from the Barita Education Foundation or creative learning-based programs have advanced the literacy levels within the school because the teachers are exposed to the specialized training within the basic schools. I see where there is a greater percentage of children going into the primary schools being able to read or reading ready. So what it is that I'm saying to our able minister and ministry team is that if we really look into training the basic school teachers, personnel, then the children will benefit even greater. I also want to, the second thing, and I'm going to stop here, is put in focus the one teacher in basic school. It is not working out. We really want to get some more. And even if those that are put there are to advance what is happening in the basic school, they need to feel more valued. It cannot be that when July and August comes, they don't have a salary to collect. So I'm asking us to look into that. Thank you so much.
Mike 1.
Thank you. Mr. Minister, thank you so much for your presentation. Jasford Gabriel, past president. First, I must comment in terms of the initiative, really technical schools and the expenditure to be made there. Clearly, that's where the action is. Recommending that a little deeper research be done in terms of other schools, you did mention it, that need to benefit, that there is a longer term plan. But I know there are a number of schools similar to Manchester High where the number of students that are vying for these technical programs are in large numbers, so much so that we have to be managing the numbers, far outweighing those numbers in many of the technical schools. So that budget for technical school would have to remain, obviously, but right away, there's a great need for work to be done simultaneously in other schools along with these technical schools. So we're looking forward to that happening. And in relation to that, I would love to hear the plans that we have to source teachers for these areas. It's a critical issue right now in the education system. Technical teachers are just not available, clearly because they have other skills that, you know, take them into other areas. And so there has to be a definite plan, and that's where this discussion about STEM schools has to come in as well. Also would like to know very quickly what is the latest in terms of the Master Teachers Initiative. I won't stop asking about that. We heard it's 27 years now that the Master Teachers has been running since the initiation, and the latest count is 42 teachers. That's less than an average of 2 per year. It is very clear, even based on the data that was shared, that we already know that our teachers rank among the best across the world. That's why they are recruited so heavily. So why is it that almost everybody that applies, we hear that they don't meet the expectation, they have failed? We're trying to get some clear answers as to what is going on in relation to that. And finally, before I sit, Minister, just a comment on the salary negotiations. I know you cannot commit, but what is your reasonable expectation that something will be offered to the teachers that is acceptable? When we look at, first of all, we couldn't conceive that in an era where there's a growing economy, and also where the reality is that we are losing teachers in droves, and the single most important reason is the remuneration, that it could even be contemplated that an offer of 0% is made to teachers when we have an inflation rate trending. So over the 4 years, the average increase is less than 2%. That to me is tantamount to a wage freeze. And so obviously this is a matter that is of great interest to all of us. We listened to your presentation and your take on it. But if you could say a little bit more in terms of how confident are you that there is going to be something that the teachers can be satisfied with, to the extent that we can retain more of our teachers and we can have closer to what is a livable wage, given what came out of the compensation review for the regular classroom teacher.
All right, that was several of them. I'm going to try to go through all of them. I'm just making sure I'm at my right starting point. Service level contracts. Thank you. Service level contracts. There's obviously appetite for it, as long as we do it within a particular framework. We're already doing it in Region 2 now, and so I'm going to be keenly watching how that's working, and I like that you brought that to the table to see if we can expand it to give more flexibility to the schools, because I definitely believe in flexibility. Ministry doesn't have to do everything. And so that's one that I take on board. In relation to TAJ, I'll get some more details, though I know the PS had met with the TAJ, and the TAJ had committed that any challenges they had would go to the ministry, not be written to the schools. So if you get a letter, please send it to the ministry. It's the ministry that is dealing with those TAJ matters. You shouldn't have to deal with it. That is for us to deal with, and we will continue to do so. And there was an agreement that that would happen, and the ministry has paid over significant sums to the TAJ once they have sent through correspondence to us. The early childhood budget was a question that came up, and I think we're all on the same page re early childhood. If you read the Patterson report actually recommended something that some Jamaicans didn't agree with, but I thought it was the right recommendation. And in my presentation, I spoke about foundations, and that the foundation has to be sound, which means that our early childhood area has to be the center, because that's what leads to everything. And so in terms of funding, again, for that area, we're going through that process to look holistically. And the reality is, and I say it every single opportunity I get, the universities say that they don't get students ready for university. The high schools say they don't get students ready for high school. The primary schools say they don't get students ready for primary schools. So what does that mean? We have to start at the beginning, because if we don't start at the beginning, then we're going to have issues throughout, and we're going to have to pay more throughout. And so the early childhood budget is one that I know I will be talking with the team here, because it means shifting the budget, allocating more in a particular area. And I do believe it has to be in the early childhood area. In terms of basic schools, there was a question about basic schools and reading and what's happening there. There's the early reading interventions that are being done and being rolled out for September. And we also had a question or technical high schools, and a suggestion that we roll out the program that we're doing there for other schools, and that is going to happen. That's very important. And I think a very important point was made that we've lost sight of. I've been to some of the traditional high schools, and they'll tell you, as you've said, that the demand for technical subjects is very high, even in our technical high schools. And so it means that we do have to provide in our traditional high schools. And so it is important that we do put the funding for these technical areas across the board, not just in the technical high schools. We're starting there, but it's going to be everywhere. And in terms of the ECC, they had some training programs in May, and that was in relation to assisting in terms of the reading area. In terms of there was a question about master teachers, and the JTC has noted, I think this is in relation to numbers here, and I think there's 680 trained. What is this? Yeah, the trainers of trainers. Yeah, and I'll come back to, I'll let Dr. Gordon deal with the master teachers issue, but I just wanted to say from my standpoint that this is important. It's important for us to identify master teachers, and if there are, whatever the issues are in the system, I welcome hearing what your thoughts are, what the issues you've seen, and how we could probably do a better job in relation to that area. So I'm very open to your recommendations there. You also asked me, and before I give to Dr. Gordon on the master teacher matter, there was a question about remuneration. And as I said, I know that the Prime Minister has made a commitment this weekend, and his commitment is real. You're going to be, and as I said, there's a meeting tomorrow to start that process for us to get to that offer. And remember that it is, it's the teachers, it's police, it's all our public sector workers too, that we are in negotiations with. And the important thing, everybody is working really hard, and we recognize that, and we recognize that everybody deserves a salary that can have them live the life that they deserve. And that, I tell you, I will advocate behind the scenes for you. I've already made that commitment, and I continue to make that commitment. And I expect that as the negotiations continue, that we will get to a good place.
Sorry, Minister, if I may. There was another question about the plans for teachers in the technical areas.
Yes, in terms of how we're going to train up our teachers in this area. And that's a big one. And I can't see your face, but I'm going to still answer around the camera person. So that's a very, very important point, because as you've said, there is increasing demand even in the traditional high schools. And so we're using HEART as one of our conduits to do that. We also need to work with all of you in terms of what that looks like. And it also means maybe teachers who are in particular areas, how do we retool and give them the support they need to move into some of these new areas? We have scholarships, but we have to, I sometimes find, and I think it was made, that some of the scholarships aren't taken up because of the process. So the process has to change, and I love the suggestion that we got here in terms of coordinating with the JTA on some of these scholarships, and we will look at that. But we're going to have to put more scholarships. We've already put them there. We're going to have to use HEART strategically to help to support in terms of training for teachers. And then, obviously, we have to approve the study leave so that our teachers can get their training in these new, very important and then dynamic areas. Dr. Gordon, I think you wanted to say something on master teachers very quickly.
Everyone, can you hear me? Yes. I thank you for the concern about the master teachers. I know it has been a concern for a long time. However, we need to keep in mind that it is a national designation. It's managed by a board set up by the Ministry of Education. The present chairman is Mr. Howell. The designation has criteria that the assessors use, and the assessors come from all over Jamaica. They use to determine whether or not the teacher meets the standard of requirements for a master teacher program, a nation that stands out for the teaching profession. And the person who is designated as a master is Yes, the person who is designated as a master teacher is usually somebody who is outstanding, really outstanding, and truly committed to teaching other persons in the profession, uplifting other persons in the profession. I know it has been very rigid, and it has been rigid traditionally, but as I have said before, the designation is given by a national board set up by the Ministry of Education. And that board comprises master teachers, other master teachers. So master teachers determine who become master teachers. Thank you.
Sorry, if you allow just a quick follow-up, would you, Mr. President?
Time is against us, but go ahead.
Yeah, so Dr. Gordon, to be frank, if it is there are systemic issues in terms of the deployment of the master teachers and the management of that exercise, we need to know, or if there are budgetary constraints. When the program started in 1998, very quickly we had 30-odd master teachers. Over the past 27 years, we have basically stopped. We are 42 acting now over the last 27 years. And when I listen to your talk, we have hundreds of teachers that meet the criteria for master teachers. So we need to know.
All right, so what?
Can I answer? I'm glad that you've brought it up because it was not one that had been raised with me before. And so I'm actually speaking to President and your President-elect now to decide how we look at reviewing the program. And I'm grateful for you to bring it up. So thank you. I
just for
appreciate
clarity, Minister, you're committing to having a review done of
Yes.
that. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. President, I'm sorry, I am not speaking in my substantive position, but want to say something on the master teacher issue. It is actually an item on the claim that was stated not supported.
Thank you very much for that. Indeed. Claim. Yes. Mic 1, And then...
Thank you for my substantive speaking time now.
Hold on, you hold on. I think we're actually at mic 2. You're not going to get away with that.
Yes. All right, good morning. Annual conference and the ministry team. Jermaine Williams is the name. Parish President, Westmoreland, a proud senior teacher at Manning School. My question on behalf of my parish. My JCDC affiliation, been serving as a parish cultural chairman for years. Every school supposed to be a STEAM school because that's how important performing arts is. But my follow-up to that, one of the STEAM schools that is going to be built, can the funding from one of those schools go towards the phasing out, that I didn't hear any mention of the phasing out of the shift schools. There are 2 grade 5 primary schools in my parish. That's Unity Primary and Savannah Lamar Primary School. We talk about population distribution. They're in the town. And when I check around, Petersfield Primary is overcrowded. Circleford Campbell Primary has a large population. These hundreds of extra students, where would they go? So probably there's a need for another primary school, or we need to, because I look across South Primary Unity, I'm not seeing any building going up. When is it that these schools will become straight day? We know the benefits of a child going to a straight day school, and the family dynamics has changed. No longer, we have younger grandmothers, hot girl grandmothers now, so they're not staying home to take care of any grandchildren extensively. And so, with families going out to work, etc., the shift school not working out. So can you please share a timeline when these schools, and Petersfield High School is also a shift school, even if you do stagger day, the buildings are just not there. And so what are the plans?
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Colleagues, time is against us, so I'm asking that we move quickly. We only have 10 minutes. And bearing in mind that we are going to have to check out of the room, because checking out is at 12. And there is going to be an additional cost if you don't check out of the room on time. All right? So we are moving quickly to after mic 3. I cannot take anybody else. I am so sorry, but go ahead. No, after you. Yeah, go ahead. Mic 3. Mic 4.
Good morning, everyone. Christine Nemhard, Portmore District Association President. Madam Minister, I have 2 concerns, yes? The first one is that we keep talking about the teachers that are leaving in math and science and all of those academic subjects. But there's a worrying trend because our teachers of aesthetics, the music, and the cultural teachers are also being taken away. This is now going to be diminishing the culture that should be taught to the next generation. Yes? Because the persons that are coming in, they are not doing that. We have lost, over the past 2 to 3 years, we have lost so many of our music teachers, and I'm not just talking off the top of my head. My son was one of them, and I fought hard for him to stay, and he said, Miss, Mommy, I have given back to my country, and it's time to go. And he was a very good music teacher. Madam Minister, we need to have these people here. I am old. I have 8 years left in the system. And yes, the songs that I know and all of that, who's going to carry on when the aesthetic teachers are gone? We need to do something about those persons. We need to keep them because our culture needs to go on. We don't need to borrow from anybody else. We have the richest. That's why people are coming here to learn our culture and our language and our music. That's one. Special education. I know it's close to you, but there's a worrying and alarming trend of the students that are coming. I'm at grade 1. And let me give you some statistics. Last year I had 95 grade 1 students. And of that 95, and yes, we are not doctors and we can't diagnose, of that 95, we saw
more than 30, and I'm not joking, I'm the grade coordinator. We saw more than 30 of these students who are at different levels on the spectrum. Yes, my teachers have to be going the extra mile, and they are stressed. I passed one of my class one day and I heard the teacher, she was like, oh, I could actually visualize her tearing out her hair. Yes? There's also the other students who are in the class who will see Johnny doing X, Y, and Z and wondering why the consequences that are meted out to them are not meted out to Johnny.
I
Yes?
have to hasten you, member.
Yes. So I'm asking you, madam, teachers are there, we want to be trained. Years ago, we learned about child development. I went to Sharto, child development. We are begging you, get the teachers trained.
Okay.
If that can't be on board, get more assessment. If that can't be done, get somebody to be in the classroom with these teachers. Because we are being beaten. We need help. We need help. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to take 2 at mic 1, and then if we have time, I think you want to say something, Miss White. I'll give you 10 seconds. Yes. 10. No? Go.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Jacqueline Caron Marie Hendricks Wilmot White here, Special Education Chairman for 2024-2025 and the Principal of the License Center of Excellence. Madam Minister, thank you. Thank you and the team for gazetting our school. Watch out, license is about to hit the world.
All right. Mr. Dr. Anderson.
Thank you very much.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
President.
I am going to restrict you, Dr. Anderson. No, don't do what McNamee did. You think?
We are from the same parish, but
I
we
know.
don't have the same.
Go ahead.
So I want to commend the ministry on the labs going into the high school. So I'm quickly moving to the colleges training teachers. Our labs are absent. So we have some computer labs to come, but all the electronics and the other things, robotics, we don't have them. So I'm concerned where the teachers will come from to ensure those labs in the high school that they will make for good use. So equally, we have to work on what's happening in our colleges. Is there going to be a program while that is working to treat it in-service training and pre-service training? Something is wrong there, so we have to make sure we do not put the cart there. One of those things, yes. I'm going back to the matter of history, Spanish, music. Currently, we're about to start the new academic year. I have 2 students for history, 1 for Spanish, 0 for music. We have to find some way to incentivize getting persons to be trained in these areas. I know the ministry from time to time will help us out if we ask, can you give this one a scholarship? But it has to be more sustainable. A process must be in place that is more deliberate to assist teachers going in these areas. Special needs, the permanent secretary knows where I'm going. There is no well-structured policy and processes and structures in place to say what we do when we meet students with special needs. I have said it so many times. So at church, we have a special needs center. We only talk, put in by the Ministry of Education, we only talk to the ministry because we are trying to talk to the ministry. There is no system in place to say how we communicate. There's an element over the regional office. So what we have is a pitchy-patchy kind of approach, treating with special needs that must be sorted out. It cannot continue like that. Infrastructure, finally, Mr. President. The threshold in the procurement guideline has been shifted. Would it be easier, Minister, you believe, to give schools, many of them have the capacity some of the funds to carry out some of this infrastructure development, other than at the end of the academic year, money is going back to the consolidated. It has now changed. It is something we should look at because many of our schools have the capacity to treat with that. Very important. Finally, Mr. President, at Church Teachers College, we have 400 students waiting to be tested. We have one team working. We have done testing in St. Thomas. We have asked for another team years now, and that process is suffering from constipation. We need some assistance if we are serious about special needs and how we treat with those students.
Thank you. Go ahead. Yeah. Just 1 minute, Minister. Colleagues, the time has expired. Given the fact that we are so close to finishing up, can someone move a motion for extension for 15 minutes? But at the same time, we are only taking those who are going to be at the mic. Nobody else.
Yes, Omar Tomlinson, St. James Parish President, move a motion for extension of 15 minutes.
Second, thank you. Go ahead, Minister. Yes, go ahead. Touch me.
Hello? Yes, good. All right, I'm going to go through the last set that I got. The area of the arts and incentivizing our teachers there and having more teachers in the arts. And I heard all the passion coming from that suggestion. And it is an important one because if we think about it, Jamaica is one of the cultural capitals of the world. And in order for us to stay there, we have to be able to have persons who are willing to impart that cultural heritage that we have going forward. I would never want to lose the maypole and have no one being able to teach our children how to do that. I mean, it's very important, and especially in relation to also our music teachers. And it's a big part of who we are as Jamaicans. And so I welcome discussions. I will also speak to the PS to look at whether or not we can move scholarships in that way. My view on scholarships is that they should not be fixed. If we find that there is an issue, a shortage, then we put scholarships towards that area. And then it may change. So we need to be in a position of dynamism. And so that's the key thing that we will do, and we will look at those areas. In terms of special education, I also heard the passion about how difficult it is in the classroom and the increasing number of students with special needs. And we're committing to obviously doing a lot more. The teacher training element is important. I got that suggestion from teachers across the board saying that, you know, they need help. When you have a lot of students with special needs in your classroom, that's a different kettle of fish. And it is important that we enhance the training that we provide. License, thank you. It was good to be able to help you on that one, and thank you for telling us there was a problem there. In terms of teachers' colleges, there is a program that we have going before PIAB, which is to retool the teachers' colleges, because we do recognize that there's a lot of infrastructure needs in our teachers' colleges, and our teachers' colleges have to have the highest technology if the teachers are going to be going into schools where we're putting technology. The teachers' colleges have to be equipped also, and we have a partnership with Digital already. We've started with 5 of the colleges, and we are also, as government, going through an infrastructure project for teachers' colleges, and e-learning is also assisting us in terms of building out some of the technology that we have there. There was a point about history, Spanish, and music. Again, I absolutely agree and the arts area, plus languages. We don't talk about languages enough. It is very important that we equip our students with other languages. And so that is key in relation to the scholarship programs, and I take that on board. In terms of, I know there were special needs again, about a deliberate strategy in relation to special needs. There is a policy, and I agree that there needs to be more in relation to procedures, and we need to be a little bit clearer, and we'll work on that and improve so that our teachers know what to do, our parents know what to do, we understand what we're doing throughout the system. In relation to, I think there was a question about infrastructure and schools being allowed to do some of the infrastructure work. I know there had been a question earlier on SLAs, and I had noted that we are not opposed to SLAs, and we are actually doing it now in Region 2, so giving the schools more autonomy. Obviously, we'd have to do it within a particular context and with some guardrails around it, but there is no opposition to that at all. In terms of the testing team that you've requested, I will take that on board and see how I can assist there. That's the key thing, and I said it before, building diagnostic centers and not having the testing teams does not help us. It doesn't take us forward. And so that's why we have the scholarships, and that's why we need to also have as many technicians as possible that we can use on the testing side, and also in terms of delivering treatment when we identify it. And PS is telling me that there has been an audit that has been done, and that we will be moving to implement some new arrangements based on that audit that has been done. I think I got all of them, I think.
Yes, you did. Mic 1.
Tina Williams, delegate. Is this not my phone? Delegate of the Blue Mountain Valley DA in St. Thomas.
Hold on. The shift.
Oh, shifts. Okay, the shift schools. The timeline is to have all schools removed from shift by the 28-29 academic year. All schools will be off of the shift program. So we have a program in the ministry where we've identified all the schools that are still on shift, and that is our deadline to get them off of shift. There is obviously some schools need construction. We may need to do additional classrooms. There is a program that is there, and our timeline is 28 academic year to have all schools moved off of the shift. 28? Oh, I'm hearing that I'm supposed to repeat. So for all schools to come off of the shift system, we have targeted 2028-29 academic year in order for all schools to be off of the shift system. So no school will be on shift after that.
All right, thank you. Mic 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, everyone. Tina Williams, delegate of the Blue Mountain Valley DA in St. Thomas, and the principal of Auburn Lawn Primary and Infant School, nestled in the cool hills of the Blue Mountain Valley. My major concern has to do with the remote teachers allowance, the grandfathering out of the remote teachers allowance. I would have heard it is on the salary scale. However, it was dated as an unsupported item. My school is currently a beneficiary of the remote teachers allowance. We have only one teacher benefiting now, as it is being grandfathered out. Because of that issue, it is very difficult to get teachers to want to come to work at Auburn Lawn Primary and Infant School. And I will be very brief with a scenario. My teachers live in the Morant Bay area. They leave home by 6:30 a.m. each morning to get to school. Most of the times, they don't reach school until after 8 or after 8:30 a.m. because of the distance and the type of roads that they have to deal with. Transportation is another issue. There's no public transportation in that area. There is no public transportation in the community of Nestcastle in which my school is located. My teachers, on an average, have to pay over $40,000 per month for transportation to get to and from school. I am humbly asking that we reconsider the grandfathering out of the remote teachers allowance.
Are you finished, member?
Right now, I have my one trained teacher. She is on her 8-month leave, effective September 1. She is not planning to come back to that school because she would have said that she would have been working at the school for over 18 years, and it is very tiring. I can tell you, I have developed back problems in the last 2 years I have been there. The teachers don't want to stay long there. I've been having to deal with pre-trained teachers. We need to get trained teachers. However, having to pay over $40,000 from your salary for transportation is a very difficult task.
Thank you, member.
Yes. So that's one task. And as I said, I'm here on behalf of the Blue Mountain Valley DA, in which Seaforth High School is a school in that DA.
Thank you.
The teachers would have asked me to find out. We would have had a situation at Seaforth High School from 2022. The minister, the JT, and the different teams would be aware. The teachers are saying that they are still tasked, they are still struggling with late fees and interest that have not been paid from 2022, and would have been aware of the situation there. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so I got this as recent as last night, Dr. Troop. So it is indeed a fact. Yes.
It is a recurring decimal.
Yes.
Thank you.
So they want it to be addressed.
Yes.
And my final thing has to do with
Go ahead,
the
quickly.
repairs in school. My school is a very tiny school. It's a multi-grade school. We have under 50 students. Beautiful building. However, we are dealing with leak repairs. We need our roof to be repaired. The ceiling, my teachers have been getting sick because of things that are coming from the ceiling. I would have made several reports to my region concerning same from 2023. I would have gone on the roof myself to take the pictures because I want to see for myself, take the pictures, submit, even doctor's certificate from a teacher who have been affected by the leaking roof, children having asthmatic challenges and sinus challenges as a result. I know it is said that funding is very difficult, but it is indeed a need. As a result of the leaking roof, we would have had electricity challenges that would have been fixed last year, and I thank the region for ensuring that is corrected. However, it is getting worse again because of the leaking roof. Because the electricity challenge would have been affected by the leaking roof.
Okay.
So thank you for
Thank you,
that.
member. Minister, on the remote inducement allowance matter, this was a recommendation by the 2021 IDB report on education. And this report came out at a time when the then Honorable Minister, former Minister of Finance, Dr. Clark, was the chairman of IDB. Again, the Patterson report recommended that the remote inducement allowance be expanded, but the Ministry of Finance has said it is not supported. I'm asking Minister, and I said it in my speech, support us at the negotiation team. Yes.
All right. In relation to the remote teachers allowance, the Ministry of Education has been very clear that we support this. the Ministry of Finance asked for some numbers. We have provided the numbers in terms of the cost. We did that because we believe it is a worthwhile allowance. And so we will continue to support on that one. We know that it's a bit over 200 schools, and we have the number of teachers. We've already done all the work, we've done all the costing, and it is one that, at least we in the ministry, we do support you on that.
Thank you.
There was another question, and there were some
couple
other
questions
schools.
about
Now we will deal
Seaforth.
with those things.
About Seaforth. Yes.
Yes, we will treat with those schools. We've taken a note of the schools, and PS has committed to have the technical team come out. So we do not want you to hurt yourself on the roof. And so we will send our technical teams out to assess and to also figure out how we can get those things addressed.
Minister, I would want to extend that the technical team would have gone there twice. The first summer when I sent the first report, the building officers, they would have come to the school to make the assessment. The second year, I would have sent again because nothing was done, and they came again. So they came 2 summers now, not this summer. So they are fully aware of the situation.
Thank you. Thank you. Member, the time allotted has almost ended. We are going to have to extend for 15 more minutes just to accommodate this individual who is at the mic. She has been there for a while, and then we are going to, clearly she has an urgent matter to bring to the floor, and I'm asking that we accommodate her. That's the purpose of these meetings. Can someone move a motion for extension? So moved by Laverne Johnson, seconded by. Thank you very much. Go ahead, member.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fatima Alamin from Southwest St. Andrew, and my concern is regarding the backlog of the assessment centers. I know you would have addressed this matter somewhat, but I want to make a recommendation. Regarding the funding that you have allotted for infrastructure, is it possible that you could have diagnostic centers within the regions? Clearly, the Micah Center is overwhelmed. There are students, especially from my school, who have been awaiting assessment for almost 2 years. The parent has been to the institution over and over again, asking, Miss, what me fi do? I said, go to the principal. And that is all I can do, or the guidance counselor. There's no other way for me to advise him. The parents are crying out. The teachers are crying out. The diagnostic assessment centers are needed. It's not a matter of want. You made mention of persons operating these centers. A recommendation could be that we have persons from overseas coming in, and then we have a phased approach where we have our fellow members who are trained to be in these centers to operate while we phase out whoever is there to train or help us to move along. But the centers are needed. And we're asking that you take this under serious advisement. The next issue that I would like to raise, it's regarding the salary and the system that is used to calculate our salary. I don't know for other teachers. I've heard in a few circles that sometimes there are discrepancies with some of the deductions that are to be consistent. I'm asking if it is possible for the ministry to offer some training or some workshop to show us how the system works and whether or not we can follow that system to calculate, yes, this is what we should be getting. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, member.
Thank you.
I'm just going to take this, and then you can respond to both. And then that's it. Go ahead, Ms. Lewis.
Good morning, conference. Oh, it's afternoon. Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me. Prim Lewis, outgoing chairman, secondary committee, and delegate. I have a suggestion, not a question. And it is for mostly Dr. Gordon. I have seen too many teachers who become exhausted with trying to become master teachers, deciding that I'm going to get greener pastures to get the additional income that I need to finish my house, and this is literal, or doing other things. One of the challenges that they face is that they have worked hard in their schools, recognized as excellent teachers, but can't seem to get over the hurdle to become master teachers. And they have been denied for portfolio. In many instances, portfolio. When asked what was wrong with the portfolio, even when a former master teacher would have assisted the master teacher who is trying to be master teacher to put the portfolio together, then there's a deficiency with the portfolio. But guess what? What irritates me is that they don't know what to fix in the portfolio to make it better or of standard to become the master teacher. Those who miss the mark also don't know why they missed the mark. So I have had a master teacher in my school. Many persons in this room would know him of music, and another master teacher of music who opted to leave my school because they have applied for master teacher, and it was at a toops in Jamaican parlance that they missed the mark and they don't know why. Dr. Gordon, could we advise the cabinet that is responsible for master teacher validation to, when these people miss the mark by a minute difference, to let them know why they missed the mark so they can fix the mark so that they can get up to standard? That's all.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Minister.
All right. Thank you for those last two sets of questions. In relation to diagnostic centers, I think the individual asking that question has been listening in on my thoughts, because that's an area, the suggestion that was made is actually where I am at in relation to diagnostic centers. But the key thing is, building it is easy. We have to have the teams to man it. And that's, as I've been saying, is a problem. We're even looking right now at the salary scales in relation to the diagnosticians that we use in the central ministry so that we can actually retain them. We're also having some issues there in the ministry. In terms of salary calculations, what you've said is very on point. And I think we do have my HR hub, and we need to use it in order to help our teachers to better understand what is happening with salaries and in the calculations. And I've been hearing some issues about teachers seeing different salaries from one month to the next. That shouldn't happen, and so I will put my eyes on that one. In relation to master teachers, I've taken on board all the comments related to master teachers, and again, I thank you for raising them with me because I had not been aware of your concerns. And as I said, I'm committing to a review of the master teacher process. And so we will do that. I know on the committee, the JPA is a part of the committee. We will also have a better feedback loop as a part of the problem, as a part of the review, because you need to know why you have not been selected. It's not fair. It's not fair for you to go through a process and not understand why you were not selected. So that's my commitment to you, that I will review that master teacher process.
Thank you.
So that's it. Thank you.
Not yet, Minister. Our PE has a couple of questions.
Thank you, Chairman. And forgive me, Minister, because prior to yesterday evening, I was still a lonely teacher leading St. Faith's Primary. I got reports from my teachers who participated in the early reading, and the report I got initially was that the report I got, and this, even your public sentiments concerning the early childhood, the early reading program, which indeed us returning to basics, certainly necessary and commendable. The matter of how we were to infuse same, I got from the teachers that we were to look at our existing language arts allocation of 1 hour for the 5 per day, and then we were to infuse the reading for X number of sessions in those slots. Since then, there has been nationally disbursed timetables. Schools already had timetables. Can you tell us how it is? Because we note also that the timetables that were sent start earlier than when some schools actually began. So it is slating, and I'm going through my pictorial memory now, that school is to commence and devotions are scheduled for 7:45 to 8, and then there are some sessions from 8 to 8:30, and then the reading intervention starts from 8:30 to 9:30. I'm going through my pictorial memory, Minister, so I won't tell you the rest of the, so I'm asking, what is the, because those were sent in July, in terms of how it is now, that is it that we are to abandon the timetables we had before, and we are to now implement full scale the timetables that have been sent? That's 1, 2. Is there an update? Read the program of cluster-based, I would have guidance counselors, because I would have heard my colleagues ask about behavioral issues in schools. And then one of the ways to address that is for all schools to have guidance counselors, and we still don't have that in all our schools. Thank you.
All right, thank you for both of those. In relation to the timetables, and as we've said, reading is a priority, and we've sent out some timetables. And I know at another, at one of the back-to-school conferences, I was asked this question about the timetables. Remember that the timetables that were shared were indicative. And so there is flexibility for the schools to use it and tweak it. What we did, and I know even for some of the ones that we would have sent out to the secondary schools, which is different, there were several of them. So there were several different options that you could use. What we're doing is just showing you what it could look like. Okay. You understand your school, you understand your school dynamic. Know that what we're saying is we want the hours for the reading. You can do it. You are flexible. I'm not here to tell you how to run the school. I'm here to say we're going to focus on reading. Here are some indicative timetables. You can tweak it as you would like. In relation to the cluster-based guidance counseling, that's very, very important. The guidance counseling is key. And I know that we have to have a lot more of them. The issue is you have some schools that are really, really small. You know, I've been to some schools where you have like 20 students, and you have 15 and so on. So the cluster-based approach is one that I'm actually very much in favor of when you have small classes. Over time, the goal is to obviously have more of our guidance counselors in our schools. And some schools don't need 1. Some schools need 2. Some schools need 3. And that's the reality too. So you don't want to just get wedded to a per capita issue, because I've seen schools that I've been to that have serious social problems, and they don't need 1. They need multiple guidance counselors working with them. And so that issue of guidance counselors, it's really kind of a multifaceted approach. You have the cluster-based approach. You have us having to put more guidance counselors in some schools, and then you have the external clinicians that we say, if the problem is too big to solve in the school, you're authorized to refer and the ministry will pay the fees for that counseling that that child would need.
Thank you, Minister.
So-
IPP?
Just a follow-up, please,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Chairman, because Minister, I asked of the update, read the program. Is the program still one that is in train? And all right, so let me be specific then in asking why I ask. And I know my school is not the only without a guidance counselor on the cluster base, because we had prior. When we were to re-engage, we were told that there was some reconfiguration being done with the program. So that is why I asked for an update as to what is the status concerning the cluster-based program, because there was a pause in terms of giving permission to go ahead in re-engaging anyone to serve in the...
Right, and so there was a restructuring of that program. We have not abandoned it because it is important, but there is a restructuring activity that is being looked at, and after COVID there was obviously some changes that had been made. The ministry will get back to the JTA in relation to how we're looking at this cluster-based program. And I tell you, for one, personally, I'm talking about as minister, I believe it is important to have those cluster-based support because our schools undoubtedly need it. Thank you.
Thank you. IPP, go ahead.
Minister, good morning, conference. Very simple question. I don't have a crystal ball, neither do any of us inside here. If returned to the role as Minister of Education come the 3rd, can we have a pledge that we'll see 100% increase in the financing for teaching resources for our primary schools so that they can get the job done? Oftentimes they're under-resourced, and as a result of that, teachers have to go into their pockets to do the type of interventions and the resources that are necessary. Can we get that commitment? Thank you.
Thank you, IPP. And as you know, I have said that we're going to have the best resources we can, and we're going to use the funds, and we're always advocating for more funding for education. And so I will continue, and remember, I never saw myself in this position at all. And I will, if I'm still there, I will continue my advocacy work. And I expect that over time we're going to see the success that we want to see.
All right, thank you, Minister. Colleagues, we have come to the end of this session. Any announcements? No announcements. Okay, colleagues, we are going to break quickly for about 15 minutes so that you can go and check out and come back. So we'll break for 15 minutes.